Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Hollywood Makers. And today I am very happy to have a very special guest. Her name is Lin Tam. She is a media producer, a creative technologist, an expert in animation and artificial intelligence. And she's here to tell us a little bit about what artificial intelligence means to her now that she is becoming also a creative in the aspect of storytelling using this new technology as an advantage to her. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us. You have had such a successful career as a producer, and now with this background that you have in journalism and advertising and media, I want you to tell us a little bit about your story so our listeners and our viewers can take in this journey that you've done in your personal story. And also, how did that go into animation, within everything that you do? Oh, it's a lot. So tell me a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, thank you first for having me. This is really exciting to be chatting with you as well. I know we've been in contact, for a bit. My journey actually, like most journeys, did not start at the point A. It led to like A to B to J to Z to back to A, like most journeys in life. So, I started off in journalism with an emphasis in advertising, as you mentioned. And I never really, practiced my journalism or my advertising skill. What happened was I went back to school after I graduated, and I have now a tech degree that I went back for. So from that tech degree, I then started working for a bunch of tech startups. And a lot of the tech startups that I worked for was a hybrid between entertainment and tech. So whether that was audio, video, back-end production and so forth. That's one of the key things that I always try to align myself with, which was the hybrid of tech and creative. And so during this time, I was building up all of my tech skills, and I was managing teams, building teams from the ground up and working for a whole bunch of startups. And during that time, I began to really fall in love with animation. And I started looking at tools on how you could create animation that was cost effective, that you didn't need a large team like big studios. And, I started coming across tools from Adobe. I started coming across other tools online. And this was pre-AI. And so, I was playing with all of these various tools and working with others in creating the content. So one of the first, shows we created was, at the time using what's now called Adobe Animate, but it used to be called Flash, in creating our shows and, doing series that, we got into Cannes, France for Mitcom Jr. And then from there, building out other tools along the way to see what was possible, then exploring into Unity, right, for game engines, because that started popping up. And so now with where we are right now with AI, it's even more exciting because a lot of the stuff that AI tools can do, from an animation, from changing styles to voiceover, has now reduced the time it takes to create content. And the teams are even more, specialized and smaller. So we're really in an exciting time right now for AI.
That's great to hear, because coming from you, who also, I want you to talk to us about your animated film, which has won awards and all that stuff. But coming from a storyteller that works in tech, a lot of people have a fear of AI. Tell me, how is AI transforming the industry in your point of view, and what impact is it having on the animators that work and the storytellers?
That's a great question. So it's twofold. One is that now we're able to create amazing content in a short amount of time, right? So there's so many things you can do with AI, from character creation, character consistency to style, that before you would need a good team, or you would need really senior people in animation to really bring that to life. And now what I'm seeing just from the landscape is you can be one individual creating an entire show or even short clips for YouTube using AI, or it could be 2 to 3 people using that. What I'm seeing now is that before it was, creative pushing tech. Now it's the other way around. It's tech pushing creative, where the creatives are picking up and quickly trying to learn as much as possible on the tech side for the tools, right? So we're talking about prompt engineering. We're talking about learning how to do understanding these large language models, because every AI platform is different. So from Midjourney to DALL-E is all different. And how do you, prompt the best to get what you're looking for? So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think because you see it from a perspective that you are engaged in it, you're not scared of it because you already know the tech part. So it's like seamless for you because you're combining the creative and the tech. I think one of the scary parts for this new technology is when everything is so new and people are like, oh, it's going to take jobs and all that other stuff. But the idea that you become an engineer in your own way of like the prompt engineering, I think that's a great way to give advice to people in the industry that if you want to not be afraid of something, then join in and learn, right? Like become a student again of the new technology. Otherwise you get left behind. It doesn't have to be scary as long as you're proactively learning like you did. Because you were doing stuff before AI came in and you were like so into tech and storytelling. So now AI is just becoming a tool, not something that you should fear, right?
That's correct. And that's usually how I phrase it. You should see AI as a personal assistant to help you, right? To do the heavy lifting, the tedious tasks. Especially in animation, there is a lot of tedious tasks that have to get done. For example, just animating a walk. That is very tedious for an animator. And so for AI to do that so quickly, is one of the ways that you can see it as a personal assistant. In regards to the fear of taking jobs away, you want to see it from a different perspective, which is, AI is also adding jobs for particular skill sets. So, we touched upon it very quickly in this conversation about prompt engineering, right? That job did not exist. We can literally say like a year ago, a year and a half ago, if you had said to somebody 5 years ago, I'm a prompt engineer, they would be like, what? What are you talking about? What is that?
You're an engineer, are you?
Yeah. But now everybody, at least has some sense of what that means. And so, that is one area where you would see growth for jobs. And even, learning how to use, I would say the algorithms to create these large language models from an engineering perspective, that in itself is, a growing field, as well as research, R&D. I would say though, in order to, not be afraid, you really have to dive in and just kind of play with the tools. I know it's really overwhelming because there's so many tools out there, but I would suggest, just getting started with one just to break the ice and then building upon it. Because, if you're jumping around across so many tools, you're not really becoming, very proficient in one. You kind of have a high level, but in this environment with AI, sometimes you just need to dive heavily into one to understand the concept, how it works, so that when you jump onto the second tool, it becomes much easier to move forward.
Right. That's great advice. It's great advice because the more you want to learn something, you don't pick 3 books to learn at the same time. You kind of dive into one book, read that, get your feet wet, then go to the next. So, but yeah, there's so many tools coming out every day. It would be too overwhelming to try to pick at everything, kind of become an expert at one like you did, and then move on to the next stuff, right? So talking about like the creative side of it, you have had the ability to combine your passion for storytelling and also animation. And now you are the chief creative AI officer for Immix. Is it
Immix.
Immix. I'm so sorry. So you have combined what the passion that we have to create storytellers and then animation and AI. And now you are definitely the chief creative AI officer at Immix. How did that go? How did that transition happen for you? How did you combine it all?
It started with the short film Friendship, right? And so Friendship was done by hand. There was no AI at the time. So that project was done by hand. And so by doing that project, with a team and creating the whole storyline of it, that actually helped set the pace when, AI tools started coming out. Because by already knowing the entire process of how animation works, right? You begin to see how the AI tools can build upon it. And so that then led, of course, to becoming the chief creative content officer, right, for the AI piece at Immix, is because it was already knowing the traditional side of animation and then building on top of it the AI piece of it. And so because of that, now we're looking at different ways of creating shows, creating content, using this, with our own characters and building it within AI models.
That's awesome. So it just came in to add to something that was already there, and then just making the process easier, taking away the tedious task to make it easier to focus more on the creative, not so much on the technical, I guess, right?
Yes, that's correct. And, by the time our film finished and it was released, I want to say it was probably about another like 4 to 6 months once the AI tool started coming out, right? So, first one, as we all know, was ChatGPT. And then, so you looked at it from writing scripts, right? And creating content of just writing. And then, of course, Midjourney came out. And then you're like, oh, and then Dolly and Stable Diffusion. And you're like, oh, you mean I could write the script and then I could take a look at the characters, what it looks like. So it begins to follow the animation production process, and not just in animation, but any filmmaking, right? Like anything, you first need an idea, then you need the script, the characters. So it when you look at the tools being released, it does kind of follow that process.
Right. It's a new world we're living in.
Yeah,
Can you tell us more about Can you tell us more about Immix and how you were using the AI to streamline animation production within the company?
Yes. So with us, what we look at is first creating our own IP. So the IP is created by hand still, right? So our characters are still created by hand, and then we feed it through large language models. Then that is within our own private, I would say, large language to then build upon the characters and the world. And from there, from the script side and the story side of things, we have script writers, but we also utilize AI to help finesse the storytelling of it. And from the animation side of things, we look to a little bit of both, a hybrid of what AI can create and then what our, human animators can fine tune and tweak. From a storyboard perspective, now this gets really interesting. We would feed it through, AI to create the storyboards. And then we would have a senior storyboard artist refine and then tweak it as well. So there's a lot of, I would say, experiments that we're using right now for AI, because as you know, there's so many tools that come out. Last week Luma came out, and that was made a huge difference in how, animation is done, how camera movement is done. So sometimes when we adopt something, it really is experimental until another tool comes and we have to integrate it. That's why we have a section at Immix called Immix Labs, because that's really what we're doing. We're just experimenting and seeing what parts would fit within the production process.
Kind of like a little puzzle, right? You're trying to figure out which piece goes better and aligns better to make the puzzle nicer. And with so many things coming out, it's kind of interesting. Like, I see it as a playground. You're starting to play with all these new things that people didn't have access to before. To me, it's exciting. Sometimes it's scary because it's so much, right? But it's exciting.
Yeah, and that's a good way of thinking of it as well. It's not learning; it's really playing. You have to, when you put the word, if you replace the word play to like learning, it takes away the sense of fear, right? It takes away the sense of feeling you're being left behind. And, that's a way to think about it, is to play with the tools. because that's really what most of us in this sector are doing. We're playing, we're learning, we're experimenting to see how far we could push the boundaries of these AI tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But before the AI came about, I wanted to talk to you about your award-winning short, the film called Friendship, which was a huge success. How do you plan to use AI for the next iteration of it? Like, are you using AI? Or is there like plans for the future for it? Because I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think the next thing we'll do using, the seed of the short film Friendship is that we'll
Mm-hmm.
create short content out of it, right? Using AI and then creating series about, friendships, like, what makes a good friend, right? How can you spot like, um, 5 things that, should have you running for the woods about a friend, or what makes a good friend?
Red
You know what
flags.
I mean? Yeah.
Red
these,
flags of
these
friendship.
yeah, exactly. These little short moments of friendship that people always kind of wonder or question, right?
Right.
Are you a good friend if you do this or this? So I think that's the way we'll experiment with it. We'll take a look at the various styles, of our using AI for the characters. Right now,
Right.
for Friendship, the short film was made 2.5D. So the environments, the assets, they were all 3D, while the characters were 2D, right? But
Oh, okay.
for us, we might experiment with different styles of it, whether, it be like a comic style, it could be, more of like, I would say anime style, or even just, 3D style. Now with these AI tools, you could really just change it without,
Yeah.
having a, excuse me, having a team of people.
Yeah, starting from scratch, not anymore. And then, like we were saying, you can play with it and create different things and see what you like best without
Yeah.
committing to something, which is really good. Um, Looking ahead at the possibilities of what you can do, what do you think the future of storytelling will look like, and how is how is Immix contributing to that future?
So the future of storytelling will never be the same. That is a given. It's like the cat's out of the bag. We're not going back, right?
There's no going back.
Yeah. So what will happen is it will be a hybrid approach where those who have the traditional animation skills, right, they would need to learn the AI tools. And the reason why is it will help them do their work faster, because we want to
Mhm.
think of it as a personal assistant. And what will happen is you will see certain jobs, they will be like, I would say changed to other
Mhm.
areas. So
Mhm.
instead of just, somebody who focuses on creating assets by hand, that person then would be focused on using AI for prompt engineering, creating the assets, using the different tools. And then on top of that, having the assets animate, within the tools, right? So what I'm seeing is this hybrid approach merging. And that's kind of how we're seeing it at Immix as well, is that it is a hybrid kind of a transition right now where you still have, to the human animators plus the AI tools working together to create things.
Right.
At the end of the day, most studios and most production companies, they're looking to keep the quality, speed the production, and reduce the cost, especially with nowadays with how so many things are costing a lot more, right? And so what you'll see is that in order to create a lot of content, something's got to give within that tripod. And I think AI would be that tool to help to create the content, keep the quality, and of course, have more people utilize the tools so that we can have a deeper pool of skills.
Right. And you being on that front end of the merging of content and technology, what advice would you give to aspiring storytellers that want to bridge that gap themselves? What would you tell them to do? Like, what's the first step that they should take, and what advice do you think would help them the most?
I think the first thing that would help them the most is just to start playing with the tools, right? Yeah, I pick one tool that, that I would say they would like. So whether it's Midjourney, Dolly, Runway, Leonardo, one of those tools, just to start playing with it for the content creation side of things. And then from there, they could build upon the skill sets. I would also suggest taking classes. I'm in the process of creating a class myself on AI animation. Yeah, just because from all the talks and so forth that people have always asked, like, do you have more classes, right? So I'm actually in the process of creating a master class on AI animation so that it'll take somebody who has no idea how to do AI from beginning to end. So that's another thing that I've been working on.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. Lynn is creating a masterclass on this one topic that everybody wants to get a hands on. So we'll definitely be in touch with Lynn to give you guys that information once she has it all set up. But I'll be like your number one student there. So just like me up already. Because I love all this learning new technologies. I am such a freak for learning new things. And I think AI is definitely transforming our industry from left to right and right to left. So being at the forefront of that stuff is so important for people like you, obviously, who have to deal with it on a daily basis in the company. So very proud of you for that.
Thank you.
What advice did you receive when you started in this business that you can leave our listeners and our viewers with that you think has helped you throughout your career?
When I first started, I had a mentor who told me the following, and it has still stayed true to today, which is never get comfortable. And that has stayed relevant even no matter what industry that I transition to, from tech to animation. It has always been the same. Never stay comfortable.
It is so true. The moment you stop learning, the moment you feel like you're not moving forward, it's one of those situations where, yeah, I totally agree. That's a great advice. That's great advice. I will follow that through because I'm a firm believer in that. Like you would get bored and the moment you start getting comfortable. And then that's when you start, losing interest in things. So true. Thank you, Lynn. Obviously you manage, being a chief officer and doing this. And by the way, for our viewers, we are talking in very different time zones because we were able to get Lynn to talk to us, but she's in Australia right now and I'm in LA. So it's a big difference. So thank you, Lynn, for making the time. But within that, the time that you have to make for yourself, I always ask my guests because we live in this world where everything is fast, fast, fast. Where we have to be on top of everything, where we have to be perfect in every area. And the stress that we live with is sometimes unbearable. So I always ask people that are making it in the industry, for those who are trying to make it, how do you manage the expectations that they have on you, your life, your personal life, and the stress to make sure that you're leveled as much as possible? Obviously, you can't stop stress, but how do you manage it?
I believe it first starts with the mindset. And so for me, sometimes when, I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed, I always just say to myself, there's more than enough time. So that kind of just takes the edge off. So that just allows me to really then start thinking about, okay, well, if there's more than enough time, then, what area do I first need to tackle first, right? And what I have found is when I say that to myself, all of a sudden, somehow there is more than enough time where I'm able to tackle it, right? And another way I also help relieve the stress is I play pickleball. So, when I am in LA and living in LA, I love playing pickleball, and it's a great way to meet people, to relieve the stress. And sometimes you just need that, just to have fun. I think that's a key thing, and take your mind off of things. Especially in today's day and age, as you mentioned, things are moving so fast and it's so overwhelming, especially in the entertainment industry where we have so many friends, and I know so many friends who have lost their jobs, right? That sometimes I think, you have to take a step back or even two steps back just to catch yourself and grab a breather.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, with the technology that moves so fast, it's sometimes you feel like you're not catching up to things. So to take a step back and just breathe, like you say, and like go and have fun, detach yourself from whatever it is that's causing the stress. Um, it's usually the most helpful, at least for my case. So I hear it in your case. It works too. The fun part. Awesome. So, Lynn, is there something that we didn't cover that you think is important that we leave our viewers and our listeners with that you want to share with them that we didn't cover till now? Obviously, friendship to me is like a great, um, the way that you created it is so nice. And the fact that you are going to keep on doing stuff, I think is awesome because it was such an inspirational piece of work that to keep it going, I think is a great thing. But is there anything else that people should expect coming from you that you want to let them know?
Well, thank you, first of all, for the kind words of friendship. It's on YouTube. So for those who want to check it out, you can see it on YouTube. Just type in friendship, Immix or Lin Tam, and you can find it. The comments on friendship have been really touching. I think, especially in today's day and age, where a lot of people feel really lonely. I think it's helped a lot of people to help them, look back at the friends in their lives and those that they do have to cherish it, especially since all of us went through COVID, right? It was the first time the entire world shut down, and it really made us slow down to really think what's important in life. So, to have that short film made and really to touch the lives of many has really been a blessing. And I feel that making the continuation of the stories will also help people with their friendships in life. And I would say also just the AI animation course that I'm putting together, I think will also help a lot of people, because a lot of people are in this, I would say, holding transition period of wanting to learn AI tools, overwhelmed, not sure where to start. So they start a bit, then they stop because they get confused on what has to get done within the prompt engineering side of things, right? Or sometimes, of course, it's just not knowing which tools to use, how to use the tools. And so I hope that, this course, as I, put it together, will help those who take it, and to really see the magnitude of what you can create using AI from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, I think that that's one of the reasons why the Hollywood Makers is important to us, to Rosie, who's the founder, and to me, because it's bridging that gap of the people that are making it in Hollywood and those who are in the first steps of it. Like you are one of those people that has gone through like the fires of to get to where you are in the success part. So your knowledge plus everything that you've learned to be able to share that with others, I think that's remarkable. So thank you so much for that. And if people were to have questions before the masterclass comes out, is there a place where they can reach out to you? What is the best way to look at your work? Like any links so that I can share that with the audience?
Sure. They could reach out to me on LinkedIn. So, there they can connect with me. The work is on the website. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the work is on the website. So, immix.io. And, I can share that with you as well so that they take a look
Awesome.
at it.
Awesome. And I will definitely put the link there for friendship so people can go take a look at the short film, which is, like you said, is in YouTube. I recommend that everybody watches it because it's a work of art. And it's interesting because we're talking about the pandemic because you came up with this concept during the pandemic, right? Which is interesting that to me because a lot of people for the pandemic was such a terrible instance, was a lot of loss and pain, but it also helped a lot of people come out of this creative era because there was no alternative. Yeah, like you either survived it and learned from it, or like you had to reinvent yourself. And I love that things like friendship came out of it. So kudos to the creatives, and thank you to you for putting that effort in there. Anything else that you want to share with the audience before we said goodbye? Because I know I already took a lot of your time today, so I just want to make sure that I don't leave anything unsaid. Because obviously, because we will have a master class coming up soon, We will have you again so we can talk about that to make sure that people don't miss out. But anything else besides that you want to leave the audience with?
I would say the one last nugget is, just play with the tools. Don't be afraid. I think that's the biggest thing, because there's so much hesitation right now with people and the fear of AI that, once you start playing with the tools and having somebody show you the tools, such as taking classes and so forth, it really stops the fear. And what happens then is that you replace the fear with inspiration and empowerment, where you get excited in creating things. So that's what I would leave as the last nugget.
Yes, I totally agree. I think we're so much on the same page. It's crazy. I do believe that playing is the theme of this particular conversation. Go play with AI, have fun with it. Don't be afraid. Go watch Friendship. And we hope that our friendship with Lin continues here so she can continue being our guest, because we definitely will learn so much more with Lin at the helm of it all and Immix. So thank you, Lin, and thank you to all our viewers and listeners. You know that at the Hollywood Makers, we're trying to make a community that helps you and gives you resources, and people like Lin who are invaluable resource. So thank you so much, Lin, for your time, and to all of you at the Hollywood Makers, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.